got even more details about the Steam Deck OLED edition, and is it time for the 61 terabyte Steam Deck? Yes, that thing is real. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Deck Ready. This is the biggest Steam Deck news week we've had in a long time because just like with the regular edition of the Steam Deck, Valve surprised us all by letting a bunch of big creators like Linus Tech Tips, Dave2D, and Digital Foundry get their hands on the Steam Deck OLED early. I asked for a review unit and I really hope I get one because I can't wait to get my hands on it, but I'm also going to try and get the limited edition one on the 16th because it looks absolutely phenomenal, and we've gotten some pictures of it since it was announced that give us more details on it. So initially when it was announced, I thought it was clear with red accents because I don't know, maybe my monitor was tricking out or something like that, but it's actually see-through gray with orange accents, which if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a big fan of orange and Halloween. I've got my little pumpkin guy right up there, and yeah, I think that's a perfect color scheme for it, and in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense because, you know, the orange box, Valve's logo is orange, the valve on the back of the guy's neck in their intro screen, it's always orange, so yeah, having the accents be orange makes a lot of sense and is very cool. But whether you get the limited edition or not, it looks like all of the new versions of the Steam Deck are going to have an orange power button, which again is a nice little touch. The one thing I was really hoping they'd improve that look pretty much exactly the same are the Steam button and the quick access menu button, and then on top of that, it looks like the trackpads are going to be the same. I was talking about this in a video that I previously recorded where I was like, what is this new hardware going to be? It also turns out they've upgraded the included carrying case that comes with the Steam Deck. It's going to have a removable liner now, but if you do get the limited edition version of the Steam Deck OLED, it's going to have an orange zipper, which is sweet, and the liner is going to be a special edition that only comes with that limited Steam Deck. But yeah, as far as the pricing goes, they've kept it very well in check with what we had before. So the 256 gigabyte model, it seems like may have gotten a price drop because that's going to be $399, and it's going to be an LCD version, so it's not the OLED. And then it jumps up to 512 gigabytes for the OLED version's cheapest model, and that's going to cost $549. And then if you want to get one with a 1 terabyte SSD inside of it, that's going to cost you $649, so an extra $100 for the terabyte SSD in there, which I think is pretty fair. And then the limited edition one is going to be more expensive at $679, which puts you in the territory of the ROG Ally, which, you know, on paper, the Steam Deck isn't as powerful as the ROG Ally, even with its new 6nm chip, but the Steam Deck still runs games about as well, in my experience, as the ROG Ally, and the clincher is battery life, and it's going to be even better. It's going to be 50% better on the Steam Deck, so that's going to translate into like maybe 40 minutes to an hour of extra battery life. So I feel like around 640 bucks is where this thing can safely sit, and I don't think that pricing is outrageous at all, especially for the fact that it includes a 90 Hz OLED panel. Another interesting thing that was mentioned in the Eurogamer interview is that Valve is working on games again, which is great, right? Like they worked on Half-Life Alyx, and then Counter-Strike 2 came out, but we haven't heard anything beyond that. It turns out they're making games that are actually targeting the performance profile of the Steam Deck, which is awesome. I have been wanting that ever since the Steam Deck was announced in the first place because the handheld form factor is basically perfect for a lot of Valve's greatest franchises like Half-Life and Portal. A new Portal game that's targeting the Steam Deck in terms of graphics and playability, I think that could be awesome, especially considering that the Steam Deck has a gyroscope in it. Interestingly, Linus Tech Tips asked Valve why they didn't use a VRR panel, and it turns out it seems like they're actually using the same panel or a very similar panel to the Nintendo Switch OLED, which is a great panel. Bob Wolf over on the Wolf Den just left one on for like 2 years, and it's only going to have burn-in if you abuse it. So it's a great panel to have on a handheld like this, but it basically showed Linus that Valve maybe hasn't sold enough Steam Decks to make it worth getting a completely custom panel that's OLED and also includes variable refresh rate and a higher refresh rate as well. And honestly, it doesn't bug me too much. It would be great to have variable refresh rate, of course, for games that run at around 50 to 60 FPS. You won't get the stuttering or weird jerkiness that you get without variable refresh rate, but when you're talking about a higher refresh rate panel, I think 60 Hz is more than good enough, but 90 Hz is a nice bonus. The Lenovo Legion Go and the ROG Ally having screens that go above 100 Hz, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. It draws power, which is annoying. You're never going to run games at that high frame rate in the first place, so it's just overkill that doesn't really matter. So I feel like a 60 Hz OLED panel would have been fine. Variable refresh rate is the one thing where I'm like, man, I really wish they could have included that. I'm also really curious if either Steam Deck is going to be able to support FSR 3 because I feel like that could go a long way. I think I saw a couple articles that said that they won't be able to do it on the Steam Deck, but I don't know. I was really excited excited about frame generation when I got my 4090, and I will tell you that I have not used frame generation with my 4090 because the one game I really wanted to use it in was Starfield. It created some artifacts with frame generation where when the shotgun reticle, when you're moving, it opens up to a bigger circle, and then when you're done moving for a second, it's like closes back in, and when you see it close back in, it gets this like wobble effect that was super annoying to me. And just the artifacting that you get in games like Diablo 4 and other games that include frame generation, it's just not really worth using. So while it would be cool to have FSR3 for frame generation on the Steam Deck, I don't think it would be good enough where I'm like upset that it's not going to work out, it seems like. And the most interesting thing that Valve talked about was the actual Steam Deck 2. They said that it is going to happen. There's a lot of people who are happy about the Steam Deck at Valve. A lot of people who are committed to actually making it work. It's just going to take a couple of years because, as they put it, the technology isn't there. They're really committed to keeping the battery life good on this device and acceptable. With the original Steam Deck, I'd say it was good enough, and with the new Steam Deck, if we're going to see the numbers that the reviews say we're going to, I think it's more than good enough, and it's approaching great. This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. Look, it's 2023. I shouldn't even need to tell you that when you're browsing online, you should be using a VPN. I've tried out a ton of VPNs over the years, and the thing I love about Atlas is that it's super easy to use. You open the app, you pick a country you want to browse from, and you turn a switch from off to on, and then from that point forward, you are protected. And their little logo is a cool little superhero, which makes me happy. And right now, Atlas VPN is running a Black Friday price cut. Yeah, you heard me right. They're running a Black Friday promotion where right now, Atlas VPN is only $1.70 a month plus 6 months free. And with their 30-day money-back guarantee, there's no reason not to try it out, especially for this super cheap price. When you're ready to try it out, the link is down in the description, but be quick because it's a limited time offer. And the coolest part about Atlas VPN is that you can use it to access the libraries of streaming services from other countries. So if they have a show in the UK that you really want to watch, but you can't watch it here, you just switch your country and you're good to go. And with your single Atlas VPN subscription, you can protect unlimited devices, block malware, block ads, and find the best deals when shopping online. It's pretty awesome. You should once again definitely take advantage of their Black Friday promotion, which will get you Atlas VPN for $1.70 a month plus 6 months free. And with its 30-day money-back guarantee, you don't got to worry about anything. The link is down in the description when you're ready to check it out. Once again, huge shout out to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. Let's jump back into it. And as someone who's watched a lot of videos on the Lenovo Legion Go and also owns an ROG Ally, while yes, you do get more raw power on paper, the trade-off in battery life just isn't worth it. And interestingly enough, when you're running the ROG Ally at the same 15 watts that the Steam Deck has as its sweet spot, in almost all categories, the ROG Ally kind of falters and doesn't do as well. So yeah, I just don't really think Valve is lying here. I think they have a good justification for waiting a little bit longer for the Steam Deck 2. And in the long run, I think that's going to be good, but it does suck that right about now is when we're hitting that point where games like Baldur's Gate 3, Jedi Survivor, Alan Wake 2, Remnant 2, you know, these big next-gen games that are running at like 720p on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, they just don't work very well on the Steam Deck. And I know a lot of people are okay with that caveat and just accept the fact that they're going to play at sub 30 FPS around medium-low settings. It's just not good enough for me because when I'm playing at home, I have a desktop that I'm totally happy to play on. I wish I could play stuff like Starfield on the Steam Deck at an acceptable frame rate, but I'm just not going to hold my breath going forward because the Steam Deck is really approaching that Nintendo Switch category where it's great for last-gen games, it's great for indie games, and it's great for some lower tier like AA type releases that aren't going to graphically push the thing to its absolute limit, right? It's still a handheld at the end of the day that needs to run on battery, and when you're talking about games like Baldur's Gate, while I wish that game would get some patches and run at 30 FPS, I'm happy to just play it on my main gaming PC. So yeah, that about covers it for my extended breakdown of everything we learned about the Steam Deck OLED. I'd still love to hear if you're going to pick one up down in the comments below. And this next thing I want to talk about is this 61 terabyte Steam Deck, because every article I've been seeing about it makes it seem like that there's a 61 terabyte SSD out there, and then you click into it and realize that while this is a very cool thing that someone did, it's not something that you're going to be able to do yourself. Or if you do, it's going to ruin the whole draw and allure of the Steam Deck. Ah, my wedding ring just flew across the room, sorry. I'm still not used to this thing. I play with it all the time and then it flies off my fingers. So basically what the channel storage review was able to do is open up the back of the Steam Deck and then put an adapter in it, like not actually in it, they connect it with a cable, and that adapter allowed them to put a 61 terabyte SSD inside the adapter, and that was able to be used by the Steam Deck, which honestly is very cool. The only function I would like to see this evolve into is maybe a Steam Deck dock that has an SSD in it officially from Valve. We actually got one of these from I think JSOX last year, and basically what it was a Steam Deck dock that had an M2 SSD slot in it, and it came, mine at least did, with a 2 terabyte SSD. So when you plugged your monitor, your keyboard, your mouse, and then your Steam Deck into this thing and go into desktop mode, you could then add on that SSD as a second Steam library. And once you do that, when you dock your Steam Deck and plug it in, it'll automatically know if you restart it that, oh, there's the SSD that I've connected to before, I can take advantage of that library. So if you had bigger games on there that you liked playing at a desktop setup like Baldur's Gate 3 or Remnant 2, and they were just taking up so much storage on your Steam Deck, you could have this external library that's just basically made for desktop games. And I think there's actual utility there now, but where it would really come in handy is with something like the Steam Deck 2. I feel like that's when they can make a dock that has an SSD in it, because theoretically that device will be even better in terms of being able to play on your TV as well as on the go. Because I don't know, as much as I love the dream of plugging my Steam Deck into the TV, the only games I've ever really done that for are things like Dead Cells or Cult of the Lamb, you know, stuff that can run at a higher resolution. And no matter what game you're playing, once you push the Steam Deck to 4K, it kind of craps out and gets overloaded. But playing games like Resident Evil 2 and 3 was awesome on my TV with the Steam Deck. And if you're talking about in the future when we have more power, I think that could be pretty cool. Anyway, that hardware mod is awesome, so I figured it was worth highlighting on the channel. And the last thing I want to talk about today is a new update to the preview channel of SteamOS 3.5 that actually does something pretty cool, but it might be a little bit controversial. So we all know that right now in the quick access menu, if you want to change your Steam Deck's hertz, like its refresh rate, and its FPS limit, those are two separate sliders, right? But now they've actually unified them, so it's one slider that changes the hertz in unison with your refresh rate. So at first I was a little frustrated with that, because if you have your Steam Deck running at 60 hertz, something that a lot of people do is set the limiter to 30 FPS. But then I was thinking about it, and if you can drop the hertz all the way down to 30 FPS and 30 hertz at the same time, then theoretically you might get a little bit better battery life because you're not pushing as many frames to the actual screen. I just noticed this update came out before I shot this video, so I haven't gotten to test it out, but my Steam Deck did have that little exclamation point over the gear. And honestly, this is the first time in a while where I feel like the beta preview update is actually worth installing. I've been playing a ton of Diablo 4 on my Steam Deck every night before I go to bed, and it seems like there's a new update every day for SteamOS 3.5, and I install it usually right before I start playing. And I will say that the only bug I've ran into is if you let your Steam Deck battery drain down to 0 and then it shuts off, it resets the speaker volume, because Valve speakers are good enough in the Steam Deck where if you max the thing out, like you set the volume slider all the way up, it's actually running at around 150% volume and it still sounds really good. And getting that fixed is actually a little bit tricky. You have to run a console command and then drag up a slider. But once I found the Reddit thread that showed me how to do that, it was actually easy enough where it didn't really bother me. And I've actually kept SteamOS 3.5's preview build installed on my Steam Deck. I'm honestly shocked that this isn't released yet. It seems like it's taking a lot longer than both we and Valve expected, because I don't know, this was announced at the beginning of 2023 and December is next month and we still don't have SteamOS 3.5. But thankfully Valve seems to be putting the finishing touches on it, and they also teased that we can look forward to SteamOS getting a big overhaul next year as well, in addition to dual boot support that's officially coming from Valve. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Make sure you let me know what you think down in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.